Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Augustus the Animator, and today, together, we are going to grow a tree. And it's going to look really fun, really bouncy, have a lot of energy in this sort of style. I'm not going over the process to make these assets, I'm just going over the process on how to animate it. And we're going to touch really briefly on a couple of the principles of animation, just some squash and stretch and a little bit of follow through and what that means and how it's nice. If you like this tutorial, please like the video. And if you like this channel and you like me, please subscribe because that would make me super happy. And that's it, let's get right into it. All right, we're in our composition, it's a square. I think this one is 1920 by 1920 since I originally made this for Instagram. And we are gonna work backwards today. So what I've done is construct a tree based on some different pieces, as you can kind of see, and I'll obviously explain these more. So with a little forethought and planning, I knew that I wanted to have different bits of this pop up at different times. So rather than this whole thing being one big block, it's like two parts so that you can get some more pieces moving at once. And also, I didn't design this. My roommate and best friend, Rachel Waldorf, designed this because she's a designer and she's great. I'll link her YouTube channel in the description of this video. Go check her out. She's great. But anyways, these were all made in Illustrator by her. And with the plan to animate them. So we made them accordingly, made them into little pieces and things like that. So you want to have a little bit of planning and forethought if you're going to do it this way as well. So I am going to start by hiding all of these leaves. All of them, I said. And the branches. And just start with the trunk. Okay, and so I'm gonna go to him. And I'm gonna hit S for scale. And I think that's actually the only thing I'm gonna be working with today. So I'm going to, I'll move forward, 1 second or so. And make a keyframe, because this is where I want it to end up in terms of its size. And we're gonna go over here, excuse me, to the beginning, and make this 0. Ignore the fact that it's at 257%. That's just what I had to scale it up to from the Illustrator file to fit this composition. So yours is probably starting at 100, and that is great and perfect. This won't make any difference. Okay, starting at 0, it's now gone. And we can see that it grows up, and it grows up from the bottom because I have moved the anchor point to the bottom of this. All right, that's the basic idea of what we want, but we're gonna take the time to add a lot of love to this with some squash and stretch and some follow through. And if you don't know what those are, Google or YouTube the 12 principles of animation, and there's some really great succinct resources for what that is, and it'll totally up your animation game if you have a great understanding of those. They're of utmost importance, but I'm not going to explain them in this video. Okay, so we have our beginning and our end point. Let's go back. Like, I don't know, a few frames. We're going to adjust this. I'm going to select this guy, copy him, and paste him just as a starting point to get this overshoot and a little bouncy motion that we're gonna have. So I want this to shoot up, go a little bit high, shrink to be a little bit lower, and then go back up to this. So like overshoot, squash back down, and then go back up, because it's gonna look really bouncy, really fun. And it's, it adds a lot of life to the animation. I'm gonna unclick on scale the link that's gonna link these two guys together, because that's just not gonna give me all the control that I want, because I wanna maintain sort of the volume of this trunk, at least to some degree. So when it's this tall, or when it's overshooting, I want it to be taller and skinnier. So I increase the y-axis scale, and then I'm gonna decrease the x-axis scale, maybe even a little more. And then I'm gonna go forward a few frames, command right arrow, and I'm going to, again, copy this keyframe, paste it so I know what my end point is, and then we can adjust from there. I'm gonna make it shorter and squattier. So I'm gonna bring it down a little bit, make it a little bit wider, not by too much, because this is, one of the last bounces it's gonna do. That's the basic idea. Is you see that it gets tall and skinny, maybe a little bit too tall, gets shorter and squatter, and then it gets to its original or its final position, excuse me. I'm going to select these two keyframes in the middle here, and then using Mount MoGraph's tool, or Motion 2, just crank up the easy ease on this. So if you don't have this tool, don't worry. All I'm doing is, right-clicking or using F9 to do easy ease, and then going in the graph editor and adjusting those properties. But this is, as you can see, a way faster way to do it. Again, highly recommend. There we go. So yeah, you can already see it's fun. It adds a little bit of life to it just by making this bounce, even though tree trunks don't bounce in real life. Okay, and this is from the tall and skinny position to the shorter and squatty position. It's kind of slamming down a little bit more than I would want it to. So I'm gonna decrease the easy ease on this, make it a little bit softer. Select this keyframe. Let's just go into our graph editor. Let's do, change this to speed because that's easier for my brain. Oh, it's on speed. Great. There's, two lines because the values are being adjusted individually, which is why I thought it was on the other one. But we're gonna crank this back a little bit, make sure these match so that it just comes out a little bit more softly from that. And then, there we go. Maybe even move this keyframe over with Alt right arrow, give it a little bit more time. Maybe even have this guy come in even faster. All right, I know I'm just nitpicking, but anyways, you have it come up, it shoots up, it gets tall and skinny. Yep, there we go. Okay, so we've got the tree trunk, not bad, right? And now we want everything else to come in. So let's start with, I'll use a single, how did I label these? I'll use light, 1 and 2. Great. Okay, I'm gonna start with the bigger bunch of leaves here. And these guys, the way that I had it is they're just gonna scale up and rotate a little bit too to add a little bit more fun and life. So I'm gonna have these start maybe like right here when we have our pretty much the full figure of the tree trunk happening. And I'm gonna select both of them. Since they're not gonna appear before this, I'm gonna hit Alt left bracket to chop off that area of the layer, and then hit S for my scale. I'm gonna go forward, we'll say 20 frames. We can always adjust that. Keyframe the scale because that's where I want this thing to end. Go back to this, let's do 0 for both of these. Look at that, perfect. Okay, and we're gonna do the same thing with rotation. Select both, oops. Hit R, I'm gonna hit Shift S to have both those properties up at once. Keyframe the rotation, go back here, make another keyframe. Let's see, this one is a little bit harder because I've now made this invisible while I'm trying to adjust these properties. So I'm gonna move these forward for now just so I can see them. And then for this one, I'm gonna go just to the left a little bit. With this one, I'm gonna go to or spin them to the right. And then I'm gonna move these two keyframes back so that they start at the same time. Perfect. So we're gonna do the same thing that we did down here. We have our end point and we have our starting point. I'm gonna move these over for some more room. Gonna go in here, somewhere in here, copy, paste, and then the same for this guy. And again, we're gonna overshoot on this. So scale, I'm gonna scale up, pretty substantial amount for this guy too. And then let's see, this guy is spinning that way. So we want him to spin more that way. Oops. What a terrible idea to have these ordered this way, but that's the way I want it layered on here. So we're gonna spin this top guy. Let's see, he's spinning to the left, so we're gonna have him spin to the left even more. And then right here, or in between those two, copy, paste, so I know what my end result is. Spin him just past that a little bit. Do the same thing for this guy. copy and paste, and then, oops, I need to adjust this first, don't I? He's spinning to the right, this lower one. So we'll have him spin too far to the right. Go over here. This is the copy and pasted end keyframe. So we're gonna have him go wobble to the left a little bit, and then he'll end up in that correct rotation. And then for scale, we're gonna do the same thing. Copy, paste, so we know our end frame. This, since we've already gotten bigger, I'm gonna have him get a little bit smaller now. Oops. So that it, again, does that wobble. Same with this guy. Great. So yeah, you get the idea. It is like a really fun, bouncy kind of animation. And now let's easy ease these keyframes a little bit. I'm gonna select these. This is where I want them most easy ease, I think. So I'll do something around 68 for influence. Ooh, that's almost pretty good right there. This a little bit less. Oops, let's see how that looks. That's pretty fun. Great. And since trees grow from the ground up, I believe, we're gonna have this guy come in a little sooner. So I'll just push this guy a few frames to the right. Even just 2 will offset these enough to pick up on visually. Great. Perfect. So those are looking good. In general, I think I want them to come in both a little earlier. There we go. Great. And now let's do the branches. Let's see. So these are all color coded. Look at me. Okay. And with these guys, again with some forethought, these branches are separate objects, or these leaves I've reused multiple times. And this little green circle is parented to this branch. This green circle is parented to this branch. So I only have to animate these branches and not the branches and the circle. Because that is, you know, planning and forethought. So let's, oops. So just on the branch for these, and again, for these branches, I've moved the anchor point to against the trunk because I want them to be coming from the trunk. We are going to hit the R key for rotation, hit Shift S to bring up that property as well. And we'll start this after these. We'll just start them right around here after these guys start to come in. Come down here. Let's just make a keyframe so we have it go forward 20 frames-ish. Shift Command right arrow twice to do that. If you're in 30 frames a second, which I think I am. And then we're gonna keyframe again, because this is where I want these guys to end up. And where I want them to start, we're gonna start with rotation this time because we're older and wiser. I kind of want them to pop up like that. And that was terrible. So we're gonna start them down like this for both of these. Great. And those keyframes are made, and so they'll go like that. Look at that. And then the scale we want to be 0. So let's actually select both of these. Go to scale, hit 0, enter, perfect. Great. And so then, same process. We're gonna go in the middle of what we've just done. I'm gonna copy paste for all of these. And this is where we have all that momentum, so we're gonna overshoot. So let's go farther on that rotation to make him shoot over. Same with this guy. And then scale him up as well. Scale him up. It doesn't have to be too much, but the first overshoot is going to be more. The one after that will be a little bit less, and then you get to your final position. And you can add as much of these as you want. I'm doing a sort of 2-tiered type thing. But it's, yeah, depending on the style of your animation. So let's go, we're gonna copy paste. And then we're shot up, we're gonna swing back a little bit, maybe like that. Same with this guy, back this way. Make him a little smaller, not by too much. A little smaller here. So yeah, it goes from nothing, big, a little bit smaller, regular size. And then same deal, we'll select these initial sort of action keyframes crank up that easy ease, do a little bit less on these guys, general rule, and we'll see how it looks. Look at that. Look how fun that is. It's like he has little hands. And then I'm going to offset these. Well, first I'm going to trim to make visually less, make this visually less cluttered. Alt left bracket, cut them off, and then I'll have it go left to right. So we'll have this guy come in first. These two come in just a couple, maybe 3 frames later, whatever. Look at that. Look at it be so bouncy and lively and bubbly. Okay, great. Branches done. Let's look at what these even are. These are those, which will come up after, turn these off, the dark leaves in the background. Give this guy a little depth. I'm gonna do the exact same thing to these background leaves that I did to these foreground leaves. I'm gonna turn these off so I can see what I'm doing. Yeah. And, excuse me, let's have these come up. We'll start this maybe around the same time. I'm gonna chop him off, alt left bracket, hit rotate, R for rotate, shift S to bring up scale as well. Go forward 20 keyframes. Keyframe. And then go back. And let's see, I'm gonna twist him to the right because that's how we want it. I want this rotation to start, and scale him down. And if you're wondering why I'm not just copying and pasting these keyframes from these top leaves down on this guy, it's because I've already adjusted all the values to set up this image, this static image, and so it's not going to work in this situation, so we have to do it manually. And it doesn't take that long, and it's good practice, right? Okay, look at him go up. We have our end. We're going to go in the middle-ish. Copy, paste, and let's just go ahead and copy paste right here as well. Paste. Okay. This first one is overshoot to allow the viewer to have more time to understand the action or something like that. So he's spinning, twisting, what is that, counterclockwise? Probably. I'll have him do a little too much. And then again, this is our end position, so we're going to have him shoot back, but a little bit too much. And then for scale, he's growing bigger, but he does a little bit too much. Is trying to shrink, maybe a little bit too much more. And then starts to shrink, but does a little bit too much, just a little. And then is back to his position. Look at that. Same deal. First keyframes, a little bit more intensive and easy ease. And then second pair, a little bit less is what I find looks nice. Fitting well. I might give this a little bit more time because that feels a little intense. Oof, yeah, she's intense, isn't she? That's okay. These all have been. That's nice. Let's turn these on quick. How are we doing? Look at that, we're doing great. Turning these off. And then turning these little leaves that we discovered earlier back on. Geez, okay. Yeah, would you look at that? I think there's a way to zero these out, and you know what? I should probably know that before I'm finishing this video, but I don't, and you don't need to either, and you can still make a great tree growing. So we're gonna stop, just kidding, we're gonna cut these off because we want them to come in right around here. And we're gonna go forward about 20 frames. Rotation has already been brought up. We're gonna Shift S to bring up that additional property. Keyframe. And then go to the beginning. We're going to just do this one to the left, this one to the right, this one to the left, this one to the right, because it's random and fun. And then this one to the left. Woo. Okay, and then go in the middle. Ooh, just kidding. First, reselect all of these. Scale them down to nothing, because we don't want them to be there right away. Go in the middle. Copy, paste, copy, paste. Are you sensing a pattern? Oh my gosh, okay. Ooh, miss. Finger dexterity is gonna be, oh gosh, oh no. Through the roof. If you get a scary message like I just did in After Effects, ignore it, save it, and then ignore it, or restart. Okay, we've got the copy pasted keyframes. Same thing, same thing here for that additional follow through, like overshoot, super fun. Okay, so this guy is spinning to the right. Let's have him spin more to the right, and then less to the right. And for scale, up. Ooh, actually, I wonder if I can do that with multiple. I'm going to select all of these. And on the keyframe that I want them to all be too big, I think, yes, I can just do all of these at once because they're just kind of scaling. They're all getting bigger, but still maintaining their relative size or their relative percentage, which is great. A little more. Go to this keyframe, make them all a little bit smaller. Great. And then rotation, we can't do that because we randomized them because I thought that was a good idea. And then we just have to find out, I guess I could zoom in too, find out which way they're spinning to get back to that position, have them do a little bit more. These little grape looking things, it's leaves though. Let's see, he's spinning counterclockwise. Let's have him do a little more, have him do a little less, or a little too far to the right. This guy, which you'll barely be able to see, but it's gonna make your animation look so good. He's spinning clockwise. Let's have him go too far. Have him go backwards, but misses mark a little. And then he's good. This guy, bam. Oh my gosh. And then what is he doing? He is spinning to the counterclockwise. Have him go too far that way. I think you're probably sensing a pattern right now, but the more you do it, the better you get. Go back. He's good. One more. He is spinning to the right, which is clockwise. He goes too far, too excited. Tries to go back, still a little too excited, then goes back to his final spot. And I'm going to select all of these first keyframes here, the ones that have most of the energy. Crank up that easy ease. Gonna hit the tilde key because I just can't see all of these. Select all of these, tilde again. Less intense easy ease, maybe even less than that. Zoom out, what do we got? Play it. Oofta. They're coming on with all kinds of energy. And to give this animation a little bit more, to space these out and give each of these a tiny bit more bit of spotlight, we're just gonna shift all of them like 2 frames apart, or have them start 2 frames away from after the other. Look at that, look at those populate. How fun. And we're gonna turn on our original leaves that we did. We're gonna zoom out, we're gonna play. Woo, look at that. Okay, so yeah, we've added a lot of follow through on all of these. We did a little bit of squash and stretch on this trunk, just really, the tip of the iceberg there, but it's good to know. And then even with follow through in terms of this whole cohesive animation, you have these little guys popping up later. There's almost like a bit of follow through to this whole thing growing. So that's a nice double layer of me looking like I know what I'm doing, I guess. And you now too, because you just did this tutorial. And that's it. Really just knowing how to use your keyframes effectively with rotate and scale is literally all that we adjusted on any of these. And yeah, pretty simple, right? That's the end of the tutorial. I hope that you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you make a whole forest out of these trees and then send me a picture or a video of it. Again, Rachel Waldorf is the designer that made these lovely Illustrator files to help me animate this tree. I will link her channel in my description. If you have any questions, please comment them below and I'm happy to answer them. If you have any comments or thoughts or anything, comment those too. Give this video a like if you liked it. Subscribe if you like me, and I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching and have a great day.